And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Eka Day holiday. Well, Eka Day without the Eka itself. Well, it is one of those things that we have to learn to live with. In COVID was many functions and events and things that got postponed. Well, so today is that Eka Day holiday here in Greater Brisbane, not the rest of the country and not on the other areas of Queensland. But right here in Brisbane, it is Eka Day holiday. Well, right now today we have lots to talk about in this segment, and of course we have a very, very special interview coming up with Simon today as well. But right now, let's get on with the news. What do we need to know about the COVID-19 and the vaccination numbers?
After more than a year and a half of isolation, Australia's borders will begin reopening from next week. Here's what's changing. There are 4 advice levels. From March last year until today, all destinations have been at this highest level, do not travel. The advice has now been updated for 177 destinations, with no locations set lower than level 2. Exercise a high degree of caution. Some potential holiday destinations include the US, the UK, India and Indonesia. You can visit, but you should take extra precautions and keep in mind conditions can change at any time. Some places are set at level 3, which means that while you can legally travel, there are potentially serious life-threatening risks. On this list are places experiencing a high number of cases and where restrictions could change rapidly, places like Thailand, Brazil and Russia. Australians also need to take into account any restrictions waiting for them once they get off the plane. Some countries require proof of a negative COVID test, while others only recognise certain vaccines. You can download an international vaccine certificate via MyGov.
Fully vaccinated Australians, when they come back to New South Wales and Victoria, won't have to quarantine. For other states, obviously, there are different requirements in place, but for those fully vaccinated Australians coming back to New South Wales and Victoria, you won't have to quarantine. And obviously, we're looking at different arrangements with New Zealand. We've got arrangements with the South Island and part of the North Islands. We're looking at that again. With Singapore, there'll be an announcement in days as to the requirements there. So we're looking to open up further and further safely and make sure that we can get international travel back to normal as soon as we possibly can.
As soon as we possibly can, and that's good news that we can. And of course, there are concerns about what's going to happen with the numbers of cases. Are our hospital systems equipped and ready, and do we have enough front-end personnel there ready to take on that? Because once these restrictions are lifted, numbers will rise. So what is our CMO saying about anyone who can come forward?
It's a very important day after a lot of discussions with ATAGI to get that final advice on the booster program. A couple of points I just want to make to add to what the Minister has said. This is a boost. 2 doses, the primary course of the vaccination, will be fully vaccinated and seen as fully vaccinated in any way that works through to, for example, for the overseas travel and so forth. So 2 doses are fully vaccinated. The booster, I've said this before, it gives you a boost, and it's important for those that have got to that 6-month time to consider their booster. It definitely gives extra protection against severe disease, particularly for older Australians and those that are in that vulnerable group. You'll remember last year with that 1A and 1B. We're not prioritising this time around, but they will be the ones that will be first to get to that 6-month period. So they should come forward. Healthcare workers can come forward. Anyone can come forward if they've got to that 6-month time to have the boost.
So 6 month times is when you can go and have that boost as well. So, many people were talking about if you had the second and if you were fully vaccinated, double vaccinated, that was it. But now here we are talking about the boost as well. Well, what about Victoria?
We always see, sadly, that lag even after the cases peak, that you can still see those people in hospital both the intensive care but hospitalisations generally take a bit longer to start to reduce, and sadly also the deaths. So we've got a number of people that might have contracted their virus some weeks ago now that have lost the fight. So it is sad to see those numbers. We saw the same thing in New South Wales. We saw it in Victoria last year as well. The peak in deaths often comes after the case numbers start to drop. So it's a sad reality that we've still got to expect that, because we have sustained these quite high numbers over a number of weeks, even though we are starting to plateau now.
Even though we are plateauing, the numbers are still going to be high. So that is a big concern there as well. So, health services are finding it hard to cope up with the numbers.
And RAAF Hercules has flown in personnel and medical supplies to Port Moresby. It comes after a request for assistance from the PNG government as COVID-19 cases in the country continue to surge. The flight delivered pallets of personal protective equipment, medication and oxygen supplies. The provisions are in high demand as the Delta variant spreads across PNG. Also on board were 5 medical workers, here as part of an AUSMAT emergency medical team, and 14 members of the Australian Defence Force, specialising in logistics and health.
The logisticians will assist with training and assisting the ordering and also the forecasting for stores and equipment, which is going to be vital in the Papua New Guinea health system. The health team will be here in particular to help train and advise the PNGDF health services in their delivery of vaccines across the country.
And from an AUSMAT point of view, we have brought critical care doctors and nurses into the country to work with our Papua New Guinea colleagues, both here in Port Moresby and also out in the provinces as well.
The ADF personnel are expected to be in PNG for 3 months, the AUSMAT team for a month. The surging COVID-19 cases in several parts of the country are putting incredible strain on PNG's already understaffed and overstretched health system.
And aren't we lucky to be here in Australia and of course in Queensland, where it has been managed very well. So if you look at those rising numbers there in Papua New Guinea, and good on Australia for providing that very important and humanitarian aid there. So low vaccination rates will always equal high cases.
Alrighty, so
in the state's new battleground, locals are doing their best to fight the latest surge.
Going to be a little bit of a sting now.
The Hunter New England region is the new epicentre of infections and has now ticked over 1,000 active cases. A quarter of those are Indigenous.
The numbers each day at the moment are really unsettling. We're not that surprised. We did feel that this was going to happen.
Local Aboriginal groups have banded together to ramp up Indigenous vaccinations, but fears remain for when the regions open next week.
There are a lot of health issues, and if it does come down to survival of the fittest, my fear is that we are not going to be on the podium receiving any medals for that.
So there you go. The concerns are genuine, and that is something that is shared across the board. That after the restrictions ease and borders open, that the numbers will increase before it sort of plateaus out, because it will go out in the community, and the health authorities will have a major case to deal with that. Well, right now let's go to Northern Territory, where they're introducing the later term abortion.
4 years after the emotive abortion bill was passed,
noes are 4, the ayes are 20, the bill has passed.
It's set to be debated again. Proposed amendments to the bill would allow women to access a pregnancy termination between 14 and 24 weeks with the support of one doctor instead of 2. They would also introduce an option for pregnant women to access termination after 24 weeks for medical reasons with the support of 2 doctors.
It aligns the NT with the vast majority of other Australian jurisdictions, which means Territory women can access this service in the Northern Territory, not interstate.
Family Planning NT has been calling for the changes since the bill was introduced in 2017. They say it's unacceptable women have been travelling interstate for healthcare.
Women need to stay here and be looked after by their family support and their family and their friends.
Especially during a pandemic.
They've had to change some of the cities because some cities that they might have flown to Melbourne wasn't possible, so they had to go elsewhere.
The changes would only impact a handful of women every year who feel they have been falling through the cracks of the system.
The amendment will make a big change to those few people, and I think it's a good thing.
The new proposed amendments will go to a conscience vote for the Labor Party, but Health Minister Natasha Fyles is confident they would get passed. The opposition has been briefed today, and the amendments will be debated during November's parliamentary sittings. Isaac Naruzi, ABC News.
And right now it's time to go through the interview for today, and today we are very, very fortunate to have on the line. We tried to get a video connection, could not happen. But joining us online is Kaya Simone, and it is wonderful to have her as our guest today. Well, it is very exciting day for football fans around the world. FIFA is revealing an exciting, bold new brand identity for FIFA Women World Cup Australia and New Zealand during a live broadcast across both countries. FIFA Women's World Cup will see world's top players compete for the greatest in women's from July 20th to 20th August 2023. Set to go down in the history books for the first time ever, the tournament will feature 32 teams and will be co-hosted by 2 nations. In also the first time it will be held in the Asia Pacific region. Inspired by the colours of the national teams and cultural elements of Australia and New Zealand, the brand identity and the emblem will incorporate the vibrant local landscapes, building a palette based on the rainforest, earth, mountains, cities and water and the 2 countries. Well, today we are going to be joined by Kaya, and Kaya Simone is an Australian professional soccer player who plays as a striker. In 2011. Simon became the first Indigenous Australian player to score a goal in FIFA World Cup. So let's welcome Kaya. Well, welcome to the show, and it is wonderful to have you on the show. And right now, let's see if we can get that line happening. Yes. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Okay, Kai, so what is it like when you heard the news that Australia would co-host the tournament, and where were you?
I was in Sydney, Australia, with a few other teammates. It was actually my birthday on the eve of the announcement. I was with my teammates in the early hours of the morning in Sydney when it got announced, and we were just ecstatic with the news. As little girls, we dreamt of playing in FIFA Women's World Cups and representing our country wearing the green and gold, and to finally, I guess, have the news that we would actually host one in our own backyard was such an amazing moment, and it gives me goosebumps even thinking about it now.
Well, of course it would, and it is amazing that news, and on your birthday, that's wonderful. So you were the first Indigenous player to score a goal ever in World Cup. So remind us of what it was like. What was that moment like?
I remember after I scored the first goal looking up in the stands and seeing my family there, and they had, the Aboriginal flag there, which they carry with them every time they come and support me. And I just remember the roar of the crowd, my teammates jumping on top of me, and I actually didn't know, that I'd created a little bit of history with those 2 goals until after the game, and a journalist said it to me.
Well, it is a history in the making there, so that is wonderful, and once again, congratulations on that. Are you able to give us a little of indication of what we're probably going to see tonight?
Look, I think the first thing to say is that the Women's World Cup is so much more than a sports event. It's about so much more than what happens on the pitches in those stadiums. And I think at the moment there is so much to be said about the empowerment of women, the position of women in society. And this is two countries that we're going to that are both very progressive in terms of the way that women are positioned. And it's important for us that we have a brand that aligns and resonates with that. We want a brand that is not just about the football, but it can bring everyone along, football fan or not, to be part of this movement, because women's football really is a cultural movement. And the brand is absolutely going to showcase that. So I'm really, really excited. And here it is.
And of course, that was wonderful. And so what are your thoughts on the sound identity of FIFA Women's World Cup that we just had?
Yeah, it gave me goosebumps, it gave me butterflies, it gave me all the feels. Yeah, I mean, it made me excited. I just can't wait for the tournament to come around. I wish it was this year.
Okay, so yes, it is quite unique, and as you mentioned, it did, you got the goosebumps there as well listening to that. It is just so wonderful. Where can Australians go to learn more about the tournament's new identity?
I'm excited to give everyone an inside look of what we have planned for 2023 in Australia and New Zealand. It's a fresh, new direction for the FIFA Women's World Cup, and you won't want to miss it. Tune in to FIFA's social media channels.
Okay, thank you very much for that and for joining with us on this very, very special day. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. There was that the interview which we had with Kaya Simone, and did you listen to that sound? That's just amazing. And of course, it just, as he mentioned, gave her the goosebumps. So, FIFA World Cup, and good on them for, coming up with this idea. Well, right now, let's take a look, a message from our sponsors.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Asha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
And real estate is the world, and of course, don't forget that every Wednesday we have the real estate update with Usha Chandra right here on this channel. Right now it's time to go to our daily India report. With that, let's welcome Ankita.
Welcome to the Daily India report that brings you glimpses of the changing India and the growing engagement of the Indian diaspora with India. In our first story, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said that denying the Indo-Pacific is tantamount to denying globalization. Addressing the third edition of the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue, Indian External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said that as globalization advances and becomes more diversified, there will only be a greater appreciation of the interdependence and broader footprints that the Indo-Pacific expresses. He said, quote, "Given this direction, denying the Indo-Pacific is tantamount to denying globalization," end quote.
The Indo-Pacific is a fact of life, and the question of convergence is therefore one more of perception than of reality. Even those who ostensibly have reservations behave and operate in a manner that validates the Indo-Pacific. And that validation, as you all know, is in its very seamlessness and interpenetration. In truth, everybody is aware that there is a fusion of theatres that were unnaturally separated earlier. The politics of the day apparently creates some reluctance in admitting to that.
In his remarks at the 3rd Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue organized by the National Maritime Foundation, he also mentioned divergences of views on the Indo-Pacific. With China flexing its muscle in the region, several countries around the world have come out with vision documents and strategies to ensure a free and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to meet His Holiness Pope Francis during his visit to Italy. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will meet Pope Francis on October 30th during his European visit commencing 29th October, a Catholic bishops' body in Kerala has said. The Kerala Catholic Bishops' Council President Cardinal George Alan Cherry said they have come to know from official sources that the meeting between His Holiness Pope Francis and Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi will take place on Saturday, October 30th. Describing it as a historic meeting, the Cardinal said it will, quote, add more energy and warmth to the relations between our country and the Vatican and the Catholic Church, end quote. The Cardinal also wished all success to the Prime Minister for all his events in Rome and Italy. The Indian Prime Minister will be travelling to Rome and Glasgow from October 29th to November 2nd to attend the 16th G20 Summit and the World Leaders Summit for COP26 respectively, the Ministry of External Affairs said. As travel restrictions to the US are relaxed further, US Embassy and consulates in India are expecting a surge in visa applications. Officials indicate that preference will be given to student visas. The US government has said it will give preference to first issue student visas as the country gears up to meet a heavy surge in applications. The USA has lifted severe travel restrictions for fully vaccinated travelers from China, India and much of Europe effective from November 8th. Speaking on the sidelines of an interactive session with the Indian Chamber of Commerce, US Consul General to Kolkata Melinda Pavek said, quote, the appointments for a visa will be made available from November 1st. Priority will be given to student visas, end quote. The US has already issued 62,000 Indian student visas in 2021, she said. She added, with the US presidential proclamation coming to an end on November 8th, applications for all types of visas will become eligible. The accounting period for a US visa for various purposes like work, business and studies is between September of a year to August the next year. Except for a brief period, student and emergency visas were not closed. From November 8th, all types of visas will be given and a heavy surge of visa applications is expected to give a boost to Indo-US trade. Bilateral trade between the two countries had already recovered by 50% till August and is expected to reach the pre-COVID level of 2019 in the current year. Many long-term visas and OCI cards have been cancelled as the Indian missions keep a sharp eye on anti-India activities by such visa holders. Taking a tough stand on anti-India activities of individuals from abroad, the Indian government has cancelled long-term visa and OCI cards of some Indian origin citizens residing in Canada and other countries for their involvement in anti-India activities. This action has been taken against those who are involved in anti-India activities under the guise of farmer protests. The total number of cancelled visa and OCI cards was not specified. Various Indian embassies are keeping an eye on such Indian origin nationals as well as Indian students who are indulging in anti-India activities in other countries. Indian students studying in other countries who are involved in anti-India activities and such anti-India protests outside the Indian embassy premises are also being monitored by the Indian mission. A few dozen such people have also been identified and blacklisted. If they try to travel to India, they will be sent back to their country. No official comment was available from Indian government. India has successfully tested its surface-to-surface ballistic missile Agni-5 with a range of 5,000 kilometers. Indian officials say this will enhance India's nuclear deterrence against China. India is rapidly boosting its defense capabilities with China on its mind considering the border skirmishes in 2020 and a continued standoff since. On October 27, India successfully launched Agni 5 from APJ Abdul Kalam Island off the coast of the state of Odisha at 7:50 p.m. Agni 5 is a surface-to-surface ballistic missile that uses a 3-stage solid-fueled engine. It is capable of striking targets at ranges up to 5,000 kilometers with extreme accuracy. Developed by the Defence Research and Development Organization, Agni 5 is an Indian nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missile. The Agni 5 test is in line with India's stated policy to have credible minimum deterrence with the commitment to no first use. Agni 5 is the most advanced missile in the Agni series with new technologies incorporated in it in terms of navigation and guidance, warhead and engine. In August, India tested the indigenous technology cruise missile off the coast of Odisha. The country also test-fired the new generation Akash missile. It was launched in the Balasore district of Odisha. The first test of Agni 5 was held in 2012. The Agni 1 to 4 missiles have ranged from 700 km to 3,500 km and they have already been deployed. The Agni 5 project was aimed at enhancing India's nuclear deterrence against China, which has missiles like Dongfeng 41 having ranges between 12,000 to 15,000 kilometers. Indian Health Ministry will soon begin a door-to-door COVID-19 vaccination drive in the areas where less than 50% population has been vaccinated. India's Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia on 27th October said that the government was going to launch a mega vaccination campaign against COVID-19 starting November. As part of the Har Ghar Dastak drive, healthcare workers will conduct door-to-door vaccinations of people eligible for a second dose, as well as those who are yet to be administered their first jab as a shield against the virus, the health minister said. He added that special focus will be laid during the drive on 48 districts across the country, where less than 50% of the eligible population has been vaccinated against COVID-19. Mandavia announced this after holding a meeting with his counterparts and representatives from states and union territories to discuss the scaling up of the vaccination drive in the country. He further said 77% of the eligible population in India has been vaccinated with the first dose, while another 32% have been fully inoculated. The minister also asked officials at the meeting to focus on such beneficiaries who are overdue for their second dose. According to government data, over 39.2 million beneficiaries are more than 6 weeks overdue for their second dose, around 15.7 million are up for 4 to 6 weeks late, and more than 15 million are up to 2 to 4 weeks overdue for their second shot of either Covishield or Covaxin. The 11 states and union territories that have completed administering both doses to more than half of their eligible beneficiaries are Lakshadweep, Sikkim, Goa, Ladakh, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Chandigarh, Himachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Daman and Diu, Arunachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir.
His specific plans, but the Director General will make appropriate decisions about a new recruitment process. There were other candidates at the time, and there is a process by which the panel can either determine to go back to that pool or go out to recruitment again. So their decisions appropriately that rest with the Director General.
Was some of the decisions step away unexpected?
It was unexpected. He's asked that we respect his privacy, that it was a decision he made for personal reasons, and of course we respect that. He's a very, very good doctor, and I certainly hope that he continues to work with us in Queensland.
Minister, when were you going to announce the freedoms that unvaccinated people won't have borders reopened?
Look, our absolute focus right now is getting people vaccinated. If everyone's vaccinated, then we don't need to make those kind of difficult decisions. But obviously, as those deadlines approach, there will be discussions around what other measures continue to be in place beyond those dates and even beyond the 90% threshold.
Is it irresponsible that the government's going to choose to open the border to Victoria and New South Wales, and there's parts of the state that have a double dose rate of clinical vaccine?
Well, what Dr. Young said all along was that the key threshold for us here in Queensland will have met those thresholds, particularly 80%, where the modelling tells us that the impact on the healthcare system can be minimised and we can continue to care not just for everyone who will get COVID, but for all of the other illnesses and injuries that people suffer. So this is a cautious and measured plan, but it is one that gets us open in time for Christmas, in time for families to get together again at Christmas time.
It's really been good enough that last month.
Well, I'm not sure that's the case. I know in Pomperau they've been transporting people throughout the community to get them vaccinated right throughout the vaccination campaign. In some cases, door-to-door is not the most effective way to get people vaccinated, but in some communities that has been effective, and I'm aware that that's helped them to boost those vaccination rates. I trust our health staff in those communities and their community leaders to know what the best way to build confidence and get people vaccinated is, and that's why we appropriately allow them to make those decisions locally.
Dennis, throughout the pandemic we were told that Dr Young's job was the most important in the state. So Dr Iakovich would have done, I guess, quite a significant handover with Dr Young to move into that role. With the government selecting a new Chief Health Officer, is there time to have that handover of that process again, or will it all be sort of new processes for that?
Well, look, obviously it's not the outcome that we wanted. It's not ideal, but what we did at the same time is put a lot more infrastructure around the role. And so, when we started out in the pandemic, there were no official Deputy Chief Health Officers. There was somebody who took that title on, but it wasn't recognised under the law. Now we have 3 Deputy Chief Health Officers. We have a lot bigger team around the Chief Health Officers, and so we're much better placed. Those deputy chos, they're doing a great job. Lynn and the other 2 Deputy Chief Health Officers are doing a great job, and they've been there for that handover as well. So I'm quite confident that will allow for continuity in the advice that government receives, as well as in the work that Queensland Health does.
One of the deputies to step up. One of the deputies to step up and do the role full time.
So that's the acting arrangement that we've put in place. There are rules in the public service about how these appointments have to be undertaken, and so that involves a competitive merit-based process, and that's what the Director General will now do. As I said, there are also processes for where the lead candidate declines the role. That allows the panel to then go back to the pool and see if there were other suitable candidates. So that's an option that the Director General will have, but they're his decisions to make.
Do you agree with Judy Spencer's time for a review of the parliamentary committee?
No, I think the parliamentary committees work very well. Clearly there are some times and some reasons why their business is best conducted in private, and that's a decision that they make. But I certainly won't be taking advice about our committee system from the LNP. All of our legislation, unless it's very, very urgent, all of our legislation goes through a committee process. Campbell Newman, when he was the Premier, bypassed the committee process for every piece of legislation that he personally determined was an election commitment. Even our election commitments still go through that committee process. They do a very good job, and very often we amend our legislation based on the advice of those committees. Just this week I've referred a very important matter to the committee that oversees my portfolio, and I look forward to their work.
Some of the tourism industry heavyweights, including Vikash from Village Roadshow, spoke on the Gold Coast yesterday. They're obviously really excited for borders to reopen when we hit that, December 17 and 80%. Once we hit 80%, does that mean the borders are open for good? They're not going to close again? And the same, for lockdowns. What would it take after 80% vax rate to trigger the lockdown?
Look, as we've said, that date of 17 December is our deadline. It's when we have to get 80% of people vaccinated, and that is the level at which the modelling says our health system can cope with the number of people who will get COVID. We want to provide certainty to tourism that is a date that is set. It will be no later than that. It could be sooner than that. If Queenslanders go and get vaccinated more quickly, that date could be brought forward. It does coincide with the start of school holidays, which allows people to plan their trips away. And I'm very confident, just seeing how many people are on the Gold Coast today with a public holiday in Brisbane, I'm very confident there's lots of people who've been waiting to get here, and will be making their plans now.
The government plans to reward businesses for only opening to fully vaccinated people.
Well, the roadmap said that businesses who choose to be open to only vaccinated people will be relieved of those other social distancing requirements that remain in place. So at the moment, places have limits in terms of the number of people that can be in indoor and outdoor spaces, that kind of thing. The roadmap embeds in it the opportunity for people to make that choice.
Will there be any restrictions at all? Sorry, will it be back to pre-pandemic life?
But I think the roadmap. You'd have to check the wording of the roadmap, Lydia, but I understand it says no social distancing restrictions. But check the wording of the roadmap for me.
The Premier had a teleconference with regional mayors yesterday. What ideas do you put forward to boost vaccination rates?
So I wasn't on that call. I was at another event, but the intention of it was to go to those mayors with that we were most concerned about. You know, there's a wide variability from the average across the state, and so we wanted to go to those communities and see just what it is we could do, what more it is we could do to work with them to get vaccination rates up. I know from my visit to Mount Isa the week before last, they had already put a clinic outside Kmart. They said that was the place where everyone who came to town went, and so we had a clinic there. But they also said that the one person younger people in the town would listen to, particularly younger Indigenous people, would be Charlie Cameron from the Lions, and so he was there this week, Tuesday and Wednesday, to get that message out. And so that's the kind of thing we'll be looking to do, where mayors can provide advice to us about locations, about times, about hard-to-reach communities, and about ambassadors who will be able to get that message out. We'll take all of that advice on board.
Mayors from 19 communities, including Main Butcher from the Lockhart River, pushing for new restrictions as Queensland borders set to open. Will the government listen to their concerns and requests?
We always listen to community leaders, but our intention is very much that this is the end of those kind of border-based lockdowns, and that's what we want to achieve. That's why we want to achieve that vaccination target. It's why we're working with those mayors to see them reach those targets.
Minister, the New South Wales is bringing in thousands of Pacific Island workers as early as next week. Is Queensland going to do similar, or look at similar spend?
Yeah, the Ag Minister can go into detail about the level at which we are already doing that, and we have pretty much throughout the pandemic, certainly since the middle of last year. So I'll get him to add. Of course, the facility at WellCamp is the next phase of being able to bring in even more people, also from countries where we're concerned about the COVID risk.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. Look, it's a great question because we are in fact leading the nation when it comes to Pacific Islander workers in Queensland. On-farm quarantining, more than 4,200 collectively since last year, and we'll continue doing that. And a great example of what the government's done is come forward, work with the Wagner brothers up there at WellCamp, building a facility that will have 500 beds before Christmas, a further 500 next year. Is a great example of how we'll work together, and not only students but ag workers, but returning Queenslanders to make sure they are well and truly served coming back onto our shores. So we'll continue supporting our state in terms of agriculture. We declared it an essential industry right from the outset, and we'll continue supporting our farmers and primary producers right across the state wherever you are.
At the moment, it's really the under 30 demographic that's really holding back the vaccination rollout. What's stopping you from saying, all right, in 3 weeks' time, you're going to need to be double vaxxed to get into pubs and pubs? What's stopping the government from doing that?
Look, understandably, that's quite an onerous requirement to put on those businesses, and so we have been consulting with them about the best way that we can put those kind of restrictions in place, and no doubt there'll be further announcements to be made there. But my message to younger people is, first of all, we understand. You know, for most of the vaccination rollout, younger people haven't been eligible. They haven't had the same window of opportunity. They're also a lot less likely to find themselves in healthcare settings where the vaccination program has largely been delivered. So that's why we're taking it out to them now.
We'll leave that press conference there from SeaWorld, and of course the key message there was that the newly appointed Chief Health Officer has declined to take that position. So, as Dr. Jeanette Young from Monday will be no longer the Chief Medical Officer, she will be sworn in as the new governor. And the new appointee has declined the position. So that's the latest news coming out there as well. Well, right now let's finish our daily India report into the entertainment segment.
Producers have released the romantic song titled Mere Yara from Bollywood's much talked about film Suryavanshi.
आके मुझे थाम ले, तू भी मेरा नाम
Slated for a Diwali release on 5th November, producers of the Bollywood film Suryavanshi are continuously pumping promotion. The Rohit Shetty directorial was supposed to release in 2020 but got postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic. Suryavanshi, with a stellar super-duper cast of Akshay Kumar, Katrina Kaif, Ranveer Singh and Ajay Devgan, will open in theatres. Building up the excitement, the makers have released the song Mere Yaara. Taking to Instagram, the lead pair dropped their romantic song crooned by singer Arijit Singh. In the music video, Akshay and Katrina can be seen enjoying romantic time in the green fields and the boats on a beach. The highlight of the song remains the moment when Akshay goes down on his knees and proposes to Katrina with a ring in a dreamy setting. Sharing the glimpse of the same, the Bollywood actor wrote, quote, "When you find that one in a million, your heart can't help but sing hashtag Mere Yaara, come hashtag back to cinemas with hashtag Suryavanshi on 5th November. At Arijit Singh, at Neeti Mohan 18, end quote. Katrina too wrote in the caption, quote, hashtag Mere Yaara, those blissful days, hashtag Suryavanshi, hashtag back to cinema 5th November, end quote. Akshay will be seen portraying the role of a deputy superintendent of police who fights crime in the film, while Katrina plays the role of Akshay's love interest.
ऐसी मुलाकातें होती रहे, तू जो मेरे पास रहे, जादू सा यूं चलता रहे। होना है जिससे वो हो जाने दो, खोना है इससे तो खो जाने दो।
That's all for this bulletin of Daily India Report. Thank you for watching.
And thank you very much, Ankita, for that Daily India report for today. Let's right now take a look at functions and events happening right here. And that's about all we have time for you in this segment. And I think it's looking like a beautiful day out there today. Once again, 26 degrees and partly cloudy. A beautiful Brisbane day on this long weekend. It's a Eka Day holiday right here in Brisbane. Eka Day, which is normally in August. Because of the COVID restrictions, had been changed, and it's happened today. So, which gives us a long weekend here. Well, until tomorrow, it's goodbye from us, because tomorrow we'll bring to you the weekend edition. Until then, it's goodbye from me.